Sometimes men, we only feel safe being angry.
Right.
But you dig and you realize, there's a reason you're angry.
Yes.
Like there's a reason you're angry, and normally there's another emotion you don't feel comfortable feeling. And this is when I know from my journey, having God giving me the strength to process very complicated emotions is when I felt real internal peace.
Well, welcome back to Humble, where we talk about the real stuff. You guys may be like, yo, where are you at right now? Like, this is not the usual spot or the usual spots that you're at. Well, I am, real quick shout out to Lux Creative here in McKinney, Texas. Like, this has been such a dope experience already. And I have an amazing guest that we're about to give context to here in just a minute, but I wanted to shout them out. Please check them out if you're an entrepreneur, creative, you're looking to get a project off the ground, or if there's a podcast in you, whatever it is, Lux Creative can help make it happen. So just a quick shout out to them, because this office space, this studio space is really, really dope. But I have a guest with me today, and I love, as we're in season 3, like, this is someone that through the time of my life as a believer in Jesus, you guys have heard me talk about how much of a hip hop head I am. Like, Christian hip hop, like, the Lord used that to really bring me back to himself. And so this guest that I have today, his music was a part of the ecosystem of Christian rappers I would listen to and would be in my ear to help me navigate what does it look like to live as a Christian. The fact that, you know, if you were a Christian back then, it was whack depending on where you were at. But this guy's music really helped me to really not just be okay with my faith, but to be active in my faith. And so without further ado, I'm so excited for the conversation we're about to have. I want to introduce to some and maybe present to some, if you're familiar with his music, my guest today, Fedel. Come on, bro.
What's up, man?
You in the building, man.
Yes. Appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure
bro.
to be here. It's a nice studio, too.
It is, bro. This is such a nice studio, man. And I know I said this off camera, man, but I just want to say how much I appreciate you saying yes. Literally just reached out to you on IG and was like, bro, I'd love to have you. And you were like, yeah, man, I'd love to do it. Yeah. So thank you for being a part of blessing our community today. And I'm excited to get into the conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. You know, thanks for having me. I actually haven't spoken on a lot of podcasts for like last couple of years. I've been just chilling. Okay. And so when you reached out, I was like, you know what? I looked at some of your content and I was like, man, let me go ahead and do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was you know, sometimes you're in a space where you feel like, man, it's not time for me to talk or maybe to share certain things. So I appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, bro. I'm just gonna say that was the Lord, man. Yeah. Like, I literally was like, I'm just gonna reach out, and if you don't hit me back or if you say no, then okay.
But you got to
shoot your shot.
You got to.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Well, bro, I'd love to just you know, I have context through you. And to you through your music. Yeah. But I think a lot of times when you are exposed to someone, you think, oh, they've either always been this, they've always done this, and this is all that they are. Yeah. So I would love to just hear a little bit of context to you for myself, but even for our listeners, man. Like, just give us some context to you. Where did you grow up? What was life like as a kid? And you know, what has your life with Jesus been like? How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. It's a lot. I always say, I tell people that my life was defined in Memphis, Tennessee. As a 6th grader, living in North Memphis neighborhood, New Chicago, going to a school called Menanzas. That's where it feels like my life became alive, right? I was living in the murder capital. I'm a preacher's kid, so my parents were ministers. I would say struggling ministering. And I would say, and I also, since I was about 8 or 9, dealt with chronic pain, chronic fatigue, which greatly affected, you know, different parts of my life. Because at that time, we really didn't have nothing. So there was this balance of me dealing with these different things as a kid going through puberty, dealing with the streets. We was living in the murder capital. We living in the area we were living in. It was fun. I loved it, but it was the trap.
Yeah.
I lived in the trap. I learned how to play basketball in the trap. I learned how to play basketball, in areas, and basketball was my outlet, but I walked 2-3 miles to school. Those type of things that sometimes you just hear on music videos or hear in rap, it was what I lived during a big part of my adolescence and growing up, and it defined me because it was fun. But I was also dealing with the, just the childhood trauma of living in a very dysfunctional home. And so, when, as you grow up and you're in a home where anybody who's a preacher's kid out there knows, there's a reason why preacher's kids are kind of called why are they so bad? That was always a stereotype. A lot of times that comes from a level of neglect that comes in a home. When parents are pursuing what they feel called to, but oftentimes neglecting the first ministry of the home. And I'm a product of that, And over time, living in Memphis and, at that time being heavily influenced by a group called 3-6 Mafia, right? So I watched 3-6 Mafia blossom. That's my childhood. I remember the first song they had on the radio.
Wow.
Yeah. And so even, watching them from afar, their independence, that was my childhood. That was my outlet of music. And even though, it's funny because when I see the fact that, you have somebody like Project Pat who is now in ministry, ministering, going to jails doing ministry. What I remember from that, it shows that's another story, but that shows how good God is, because during that time, living in that area, being heavily influenced by that music, that culture, you really wouldn't think somebody like me would come out of that wanting to promote how faithful God is through his music.
Wow.
And so growing up and watching my parents split, my basketball dreams being kind of derailed because of my health issues, and just being able to get to that point where you are able to detach your faith from your parents and live independently, is nothing but the grace of God. And being at a point where you have faithful people around you who say certain things that change your life in those moments, right? You don't always understand what's going on as a teenager, who's moving, who has this type of home, living in this type of neighborhood, but through service of God, God putting people in your path to say things, to show love, and that was a huge part of how my music came about, is realizing that even in secular music was an outlet for me as a getaway, even as a kid, and wanting to take that same influence and talk about God's faithfulness through my health issues, through my growing up in the type of neighborhood that I have been able to survive, gang shootouts and fighting and all that stuff. And just being able to send hope through music is kind of how you came to Fedel, who took all of that, was able to see God's faithfulness. And what I felt like a lot of times as a kid is I don't get what's going on in my life, but being able to see God's faithfulness is kind of how I began to use music as a way to say, even through my pain and my struggle, I don't know if you're familiar with this, was I will be everything that say I could not be was my tagline.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just a show of faithfulness. Through God being faithful, through mental health struggles, through all these things, I would say I will be, right? And so that's just a short, of kind of how I came to be and how, my music became an outlet for me, in which was used heavily. God used heavily to bless a lot of people.
Yeah, bro. Wow. There's so many things in that I'm like, okay, this makes so much sense to like who you are. First of all, the "I will be" thing, bro, that was a whole movement, bro.
It was.
Like
It was.
you had a whole
Yeah.
chant, not just a chant, but a whole anthem and movement
Yeah.
built off of that. Like the Lord really used that
yeah.
in a powerful way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I try not to say very loosely, God gave me, God told me.
Sure.
I use those very loosely.
Sure.
I will be everything they said can I be. I remember when I was recording the album I Live, which was my first album.
Yeah, bro.
And that tagline came to me, and I was like, man, this is going to be the face of what I do. And it was like, to this day, I say, man, hey, bro, God gave me that.
Wow.
And to this day, years later, it still has an impact. And it was just a show of God's faithfulness in the times that didn't make sense for me, and wanting to present that to people as hope.
Yeah.
You know, whether believers or not, like it doesn't matter. Like just showing God's hope, God's faithfulness through, you know, my testimony. And I try to be as realistic. We talked about authenticity, not acting like this means that is over.
Yeah, bro.
It's not over.
Yeah.
That like one of the things I feel like we're moving out in this generation where live is so big, like live stream is so big. One of the reasons it's big is because people want to see authentic.
Yep.
They don't want to see highlight reels. What are you really doing all day?
Yes.
And the truth is, the longer that you live, the longer you're a believer, you learn there are certain struggles that last years. There's a reason Paul said a thorn in my flesh.
Come on.
Like there's a reason. You look at, if you read stories, a lot of these stories, they didn't just end. You just saw God's faithfulness in the midst of it for a very long time, consistently. And so a lot of that was who I was. My music was a lifestyle. I always say it's a lifestyle because there was things I was dealing with, like health-wise. I didn't figure them out. You know, it was something I continue living through and learning how to adapt, and God being faithful through those times.
Bro, yeah. Like he is our peace in the storm.
Yeah.
Right? Like he is the Prince of Peace.
Yeah.
Literally the embody of that.
Yeah.
And you're so right, bro. Like I think sometimes we feel like that has to look a certain way for it to make sense. And it's like, no, life be lifing. Life be life.
Life be lifing. And to pull from what you said when you said, God's the peace. For me, I felt peace as I got older when I was introduced to therapy. So like I actually went to Bible college.
Okay.
And so I had a pastor and I went to see him because I was just struggling, like overwhelmed, anxiety, depression. At those times I wouldn't use those words.
Sure.
Right. At the time I was just like, I feel numb. I feel like I don't, you know, I feel fidgety. I would use all these words. And I remember it was a pastor. He said, you ever thought about going to therapy? I didn't know anybody that ever went to therapy. I didn't know anything about it. And he said this, he said, sometimes we need help knowing what to pray for.
It's good.
That it changed me.
Yeah.
Right. Because from that moment, you know, I went to therapy and I had somebody help me bring out what was going on inside of me. And that is not easy because one of the hard things about therapy is a lot of the things that you need to process are things you do not want to process. And society is not really built for it.
Yes. Correct.
To deal with certain pain, certain basically suppressed emotions that you were maybe taught not to deal with.
Right.
You know, a lot of times, depending on the environment you grew up in, you're not allowed to be sad.
Yep.
Or you're not allowed. When Solomon talked about mourning and weeping and joyful and dancing, if that was, if that was 100%, that's 25 each. That's 25% of each one.
Yeah.
If your life look like weeping, mourning, we don't really live in a society that allows us to feel certain complicated emotions that just like anger. Like sometimes men, we only feel safe being angry.
Right.
But you dig and you realize there's a reason you're angry.
Yes.
Like there's a reason you're angry, and normally there's another emotion you don't feel comfortable feeling. And this is when I know from my journey, having God given me the strength to process very complicated emotions is when I felt real internal peace.
Come on, man.
Because it was like, oh, this is what that feels like. So there's one thing to be like, if you're in jail, right? Like it was in jail and it's like you're in there and you need peace because you're in a very like complicated, stressful environment.
Sure.
But what happens when the jail is inside?
Yep.
And it's not like an unjust situation or something you're going to be able to beat or figure out, or you didn't do anything. No, it's something that you're being in a sinful world with imperfect people. You've developed some very bad emotional habits, you know, and now it's time to work those out. And I think part of the faith, I feel like emotional suffering is something we avoid. It's just not convenient.
Bro, Lamentations.
Bruh, that's all it is.
It's a whole book.
But if you just read what David said in the Psalms,
100%,
it's like
100%.
the things he said.
Yes.
You're like, bro, like if there was time where you said, man, I need to lament.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you need to go work. You need to go. And so over time, God has shown himself strong through kind of walking me through that.
Yeah, bro.
And putting people in my life to help me during that journey. Because when it comes to just working, having a job, these things are things that society promotes. So it's a little easier to step into those spaces, be on stages, be seen.
Sure.
I put out independently 8-9 albums independently where I recorded them myself and I partnered with producers and engineers. That's nothing but gifts, talents God's given me.
Right.
But the part that you have to go to God for when you're in those seasons where you're on stage, you're speaking, you're preaching, you're in your word, is when you're the child of God. You're actively in the child of God where God is looking at you like a father and he's saying, son, you're hurting, you need to come to me. And you might just pray the pretty prayers. You don't have that time where you're, David, you know what I mean? Or, David had to deal with, a king trying to kill, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in a home, my father was very verbally, physically abusive. Like I didn't have happy days with my father or just my parents in general. You grow up, then you have to renew your mind to who God is. Yeah. His grace, his faithfulness, right? And so these are things that over the time of, when you're listening to my music, all of these things are flowing through, right?
Yeah,
so
bro.
when you have songs that became like Walk It Like I'm Changed, or Get Live, Here Live, or Work It Out, or I Will Be, or No Ceilings, these songs all come from this very complicated space of me growing up as a trap kid. You know what I mean? That was I would take it there. I was known for I would take it there, right? Bro. But you get to a place, you get older, you start knowing, okay, where that comes from. Yeah. And God kind of helps you by taking you down these paths to kind of get you there if you're willing. Yeah, bro. But you have to be willing. That vulnerability. Yeah, bro. You feel like a sucker a lot of times as a man. Yeah. When you're vulnerable. 100%. And there's very few safe places as a man you can go to be vulnerable. Yes.
And bro, like literally humble where we talk about the real stuff. Like this is why I started this, is to provide a mechanism, a place, a space for people to be that. And here, bro, there's so many things in that, what you're saying. First of all, this is Humble where we talk about the real stuff. This is my podcast. And so I'll say it so you don't have to. As men, this is a thing of not sharing emotions, or the only emotion we process is anger. And then as black men, on top of that, like in America, like because of heritage, history of our country, like that's just facts. Like you can agree, disagree if you're listening, but it's like this is history. So because of that, there are certain environments that little black boys and black girls grow up in that unfortunately perpetuate this narrative of what you're saying.
Yeah.
But here's what I love, bro, that what I imagined as you're talking, bro, is literally just from the hip hop side alone.
Yeah.
It's like you're like in the streets and you like put a like a little box or whatever, like a little crate, and you stand on top of that crate and you're like, hey, I need y'all to hear this.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going through. Here's what you're going through, but it ain't got to be like this.
Yeah.
And so as I'm listening to your songs in my mind right now, I'm like, I could see you like speaking to the environment of which you came from, but trying to bring a message that is relevant to who they are, but still pointing them out of the situation that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a couple things there's the side where when you experience the trap, like selling drugs, gangs, shootout, the whole, you see multiple things. You see the side of where people are struggling, right? Then you experience, like I experienced when I moved from Memphis to Oklahoma, where now, even though I'm still poor, I'm in suburbs, right? And this is where it becomes, your message becomes like, it becomes, maybe I could say you start to see things that the hood and suburbs are very similar, right?
Sure.
So you realize that the person that sells drugs in the neighborhood is somebody who they feel like this is their only option. Like this is, it's already a system built. You can just get apart, grab a corner, link with the right person, and you move to the suburbs and you think that's not going on. But the longer you live there, you realize, man, they're just more professional with it.
Yeah, right.
Right. So what happens is you begin your journey like when you from like the trap, and you like man, like I need these people to stop, and then you move to the suburbs, and you wrestle with this side of like, okay, are they like, is it just commerce? Is it just money thing? Is it just because they don't have the money? Like, is it? Or is this something that's deeper? Because when you end up, I end up graduating from as a senior in Oklahoma, one of the biggest high schools, predominantly white school, and they did drugs on the same, if not more.
Wow.
So this is the complicated part, is that you start wondering, okay, I understand that where I'm from, people get killed, murdered. Like there's. But then you move to the suburbs and there's kids killing themselves at the same rate as people getting killed in your hood. Like it's like, so when I start traveling, and I feel like I was one of the first people to start talking about mental health. When I would go to churches, because I started where most of what I was doing was inner city, but I started just doing both. So I would be a part of I was a part of a college tour for years, right? That went to OU, OSU, University of Arkansas. The list goes on. University of Texas. I did all these 3,000-4,000.
Wow.
And when you're after these events and you're talking to these kids, what they're dealing with is literally like, it just looks different.
Yes.
The tough part is that the person that's lives in the hood, they know they're struggling. You get to the suburbs, what's tough is they can't admit they're struggling because they're raised to live in such perception.
Yes.
They feel even more trapped.
Yeah, the lie.
Yeah, and they have to live it because depending on how their home is, they have a perception that they have to live by an image.
Yeah.
And so when I would travel, taking my story, being from where I was from, and then I would end up in places that were predominantly white because it was in this, some suburb somewhere else. And I would talk about mental health and how God cares about And then afterward, the pastor will pull me aside and say, man, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with suicide, or we're dealing with kids who are just crashing out their lives. And he said, and sometimes I don't know how this has actually happened. This happened multiple times. He was like, I don't know how to deal with when a kid commits suicide where I feel sorry for him, but I don't want to celebrate that to my kids.
Right.
And he says, so he was like, multiple was like, so it's this weird thing where mental health kind of helps me bridge this gap where I can talk about the struggle and also appeal to these kids that I'm dealing with over here,
right?
Which is slightly different than what the kid is dealing with in the hood. But at the same time, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Same brokenness, different expression.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's when my message, when I would more so when because I was first ashamed to talk about mental health when I was framed as I will be, but over the years I became bolder and bolder.
Yeah.
And so you use the word brokenness, you start realizing, okay, this is deep.
Yeah.
Right. And this is something. And so now, we are the most drugged country in in the world.
Sheesh.
And so now you're bringing this message and there's a reason the Bible, Jesus came to heal the broken heart. There's a reason when he said, as your soul prospers. There's a reason. You ask yourself, why did Jesus has to tell us he wept? Like you start putting all these things together because the other things that you know of, you understand, okay, the gospel, Jesus, the burial, the resurrection. And you're like, okay, I know it. And then you have these real life situations happen where it feels like, okay, how do I deal with these things? They don't seem to make sense and everything's not going to make sense.
Right.
And so over time, the reason in my opinion, you've seen such a big boom and in mental health conversations, whether you feel like it's been abused or not, the conversation at its root is sincere in the fact that a lot of people don't have the tools or feel ashamed about processing natural emotions like grief, disappointment, natural emotions.
Yes.
And a lot of times people will abandon their lifestyle, pick up a whole new lifestyle just so they can feel that other emotion that they're not that they should naturally be able to feel, but they grew up in an environment where what you crying for? Going back to being a man. What you crying for? I have a son. I have a 12-year-old son, and one of the things that I've seen in my son, because we're so similar, is he's so much more confident and strong when I let him express himself.
Yep, that's good.
Now every kid's not like that.
It's good.
Some kids might be bolder if you make them suppress, but they're gonna pay for that.
I was gonna say, yeah.
That
comes with the price.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you hit, I always say, when you hit 35, all the emotions come out.
Yeah.
I don't care. You can't. There's no longer. You can't suppress them. Your body, your life is calming down.
Yeah.
In some way, they're gonna catch up with you.
Yeah.
But I've learned this having a son and a daughter. But with my son especially, making sure that I don't use him. So, for example, like one of the things I've learned in being a sports parent, right, is I'm convinced parents use sports to regulate our emotions.
Oh, yes.
And when my daughter played soccer, I would sit off by myself, in a corner. She was good, and she would be like, Dad, why are you sitting there? I was like, I want to be able to enjoy this experience. And parental peer pressure is for real.
Facts.
It is real. But you learn over time the reason why it's harder for you as an adult to like when you have kids to let your kids feel is because you're dependent on how they feel. And when they're unhappy, they're frustrated, you've never learned to detach your emotions from how your kids are feeling and just be there and let them feel. Because we use them to regulate our emotions. So they need to be happy all the time. So why are you
Yep.
What you mean you unhappy?
Yep,
You have
yep,
everything. What you live here? What you unhappy for?
Yep.
And we end up becoming narcish. I don't want to use the word. I'm not a therapist. To our own environment.
Yeah, but I know where you're going.
Yeah.
I know you're headed.
You have to feel how I feel. You have to. You just because I feel like this because this is the environment and you don't even realize you're creating something
100%
that you resent and that you don't want to be.
Yep.
And I do believe like that's one of the reasons I do feel like fathers are way more involved now in their kids' lives, statistically. Is we experience something and we're like, man, I want to try to figure this out to be better for my child.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, so all of that is kind of how I kind of was able, like God used me to say, hey, proclaim my name, but this is a real thing. What your journey is, people just not talking about it.
Wow.
You should just not. I need you to be a catalyst in this and just mention it behind the scenes, the conversations I have behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Are the things that I hear because of what I've talked about from men and women, but especially men, that I take to my grave. I always say like, I hear things, I'll be like, yeah, go talk to somebody.
Yeah. But you hold it in confidence.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm like, but you needed to get that out.
Yeah,
you know?
Yep.
And so, so that's kind of really blended my music as being somebody who creates music at a clip. I can create music. I love it. Yeah. But it was an outlet. Yeah. It was an outlet that I was able to monetize. Yeah. Right. And that God was able to use. But there's a pleasure that I feel just from being able to create.
Yeah, bro.
Just to create, not even put it out.
Yeah.
Just to go in there and write. I always say as an artist, my biggest Achilles heel was that I didn't create a consistent sound all the time. And people would ask me why. I would be like, because the problem is I like writing rap songs more than I like creating a sound. Yeah. And so the reason I was able to create so much over the years is because I can wake up every day and create at least a hook. At least a hook. You give me any beat, I will have you a melody or something by the end of the day.
All Jesus, everything.
All Jesus.
Bro.
Yes. All like a good example of a song like on that album Club David is a song like I got on there called Gone.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Love that one.
But listen, I feel like it's the worst song I ever.
Really?
Listen.
Wow.
I remember I put it on there because somebody told me and I let them hear it and they were like, I was like, this ain't gonna make it. And I heard it and it was like, bro. And I was like, I was like, I like taking chances. And I remember I was at a camp, a huge camp. And I went to the camp to perform. And they all were screaming, gone. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? And it became one of those things where I realized, hey, bro, just taking chances with your voice.
Yeah, bro.
Just having fun. Bro. You end up creating songs that you know how it is. You get a favorite song. I'm gonna ride for this for a month. I need this. It's stressful.
I'm gonna wear this song out. Yeah.
Wear it out. And so, but a lot of that came from just going through my own journey. I realized, man, I'm so glad God gave me this ability to create because it feels like it's therapeutic for me. I can just write the song. I can just
So in that, because you said something that I was already thinking that music was an outlet, and an expression for you. And there's a couple things in that. One, I want to thank you. Because I think in, let's just say secular hip hop, you see, well, especially more now, because how old are you?
I'm 43.
You're 43, so I'm 35.
Okay.
And I feel like, excuse me, we're starting to see, Andre 3000, Snoop Dogg. Like you're starting to see a lot of these people be like, I'm not on that same thing I was on 20 years ago because I'm not that guy. Yeah. And so when Three Stacks put out that Flute album, people were like, what is you doing? And he's like, I'm literally a middle-aged man. I'm not. So I say all that to say, hearing you talk take that, but your journey of mental health always being a thread that the Lord was using in your music, man.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you because from a creative standpoint, it could have just been easy to be like, I'm going to make hits.
Yeah.
Which you got a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Like don't let me like from creative to creative, I'm like, you got a lot of bangers, bro.
Yeah.
But as I'm hearing you talk, that wasn't the goal.
It wasn't. And bring in Andre 3000, who's somebody who brought, in my opinion, he was the first one to bring humanism, being human and being mature to hip hop in a what we say cool way.
Yeah.
And now
he was on some other stuff.
Yes, he came. I don't know if it was Walk It Out when he was like, make your mama proud, take that t-shirt 3 sizes down.
Yes.
That was kind of like the first time where
I remember that.
It was like, man, he is counter, but this sounds so cool. What you've seen now, especially with clips, like you have clips who came out last year where you have Malice, who was devout Christian. Stopped rapping for years. He was doing some Christian rap, doing ministry, hardcore. He comes back with his brother, and they make this very mature album where he talks about losing his mom and his father.
Wow.
The album was incredible. You're seeing a maturity in hip hop for a couple reasons. One is because there's the what started as what I would say is street music turned into trap music, which turned into drill music. And drill music became beef records on steroids. So now, back in the day, in the 90s, when they used to be like, I'm real, 2000s, I'm real, 2010s, I'm real. Then 2014, you have Chief Keef come. Now it's like, no, I'm so real that I just shot somebody and I'm making a song about it. So now you have, and listen, I feel like the best music always comes from the streets. Everything, I'm talking creatively. It always comes from
I know
the
what
streets.
you're saying.
Because they have the strongest desire to create and get out. That's what I had. Like, it was like, get out.
And I hear that.
But this is what happened. What happened is drill music, though it was, it made some great music. It was entertaining on certain levels. It created a culture of such authenticity that rappers started dying at a very fast. The amount of rappers we've lost over the last 10 years is crazy.
It is, man.
It was not like that in the 2000s. When Biggie and Pac died, it was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Huge. I don't know who we lost 2000 to 2010, but I don't know if we lost anybody that would even rival losing what hip hop has lost the last year.
Right.
But a lot of that has become, over time is, hey, we want real. Is it real? Is it authentic?
Yes.
And so now what you have a lot of older rappers now because a lot of people have grown up, 35, 40s. And so now we got kids. We taking kids to doctors.
Facts.
We got jobs. Like
I'm living
bills,
life. Yeah.
Paying bills. We try like we dealing with women. Like we having that, you know what I mean?
And that on that too, because I have a almost 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and an almost 10-year-old. So in that, I feel like something that you're doing that I appreciate is you're giving, outside of the spiritual side for a second, you're giving hip hop this idea of, hey, it's okay to grow up.
But I wrote a song,
and I appreciate that.
Yes, I wrote a song last year called "I'm Up," right, and it's the favorite song that I've written in years. One of the reasons is because I talked about my kids through it in a very natural way. And this is something that I'm really, like the music that I'm making now, I'm really working to do, is to say things that are authentically living. Like I have a bar on this song I'm gonna put out. It's like a freestyle where I said, I was like, my son got me watching Naruto. I said, hold on. So my son got into anime, right? I know So everybody don't let their kids watch anime.
Yeah.
My son introduced me to Naruto.
Okay.
And listen, it was one of the greatest pieces of TV I've ever seen. Great, and listen, and one of the things that when I went to make music, there's like this, you know, you have like the good guy turns bad guy type thing, right? And so what happens is when I was making this song, and I told my son, I was like, I'm gonna put this in a song, and I said in the song how my son has me watching Naruto, and it was like that's a reality, right?
Yes,
this is a reality that like. I never would have thought I'd watch something like this, but my son I'm watching, and that phase is over now for him. Now he's moved on to football, right? And now, you know, I couldn't relate to that season of his life, right? I really couldn't. But my son is a very high performer in school. Like he is, right? He reads. He's in the 6th grade, but he reads. Man, he reads on like a maybe 9th grade level, maybe more.
Wow.
And so, you know, I'm watching, I'm having this great experience being a father, but I'm also watching, trying to be a part of things my son does without having an opinion. So without just using my past, he watches YouTube, of course, that's his life. Yeah. And so now without saying, well, we used to watch, you know, Disney or this, just watching what he watches.
Yeah, bro.
The stuff he's watching is fine, right? And so part of this maturing, and there's a whole market for this, is realizing that a lot of us grew up, unlike our parents, they grew up with a type of music that didn't really evolve. Well, we grew up with hip hop. Hip hop has evolved. We watched Dr. Dre become a billionaire. If you knew Snoop in the 90s, you never thought he would be at the Olympics working with Martha. You never thought this. You never even, you never really thought. You might have thought more Jay-Z had a chance of becoming this, you know, but a lot of times, you know, the generation before us, a lot of the artists stayed artists. Not all, some of them did some things that has a longevity, but a lot of the artists we grew up, we've seen them evolve, we've seen them get married. Yes. You know, and so our lives, this is why we can wear suits, but we still dress. We still have that because we grew up and we could do both, right? We can put on a 3P, we can put on a suit, we can wear, you know what I mean, our Steve Maddens or whatever we wear, you know, our loafers, but we also have our streetwear, right? And this has become the evolution of us growing up, loving God, living real life, realizing what our outlets are, right? And using that as a balance to mature and provide mature entertainment for our age group, right? Bro. So when you listen to some of my music, you remember back, you know, early albums, but now you're gonna hear me talk about my son and my daughter. You're gonna hear me talk about actively being a parent or actively, you know, buying this or investing in the stock market or learning the stock market or, you know what I mean? You're going to hear that type of stuff.
Real life lessons.
Yeah, real life lessons because it's always been a life for me.
I love it, bro. And it's so cool to hear you talk about that because, again, a lot of times we try to hold people to the very first thing that exposed us to them, which, again, in my case would have been Christian hip hop. But to hear you talk about mental health in a way that, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like mental health, therapy, counseling, all of that, the ecosystem of mental health, it sounds like that's really your unique burden.
Yes, because that's what God used to really help me. I told you I grew up with chronic pain, chronic fatigue. That's what God used to help me heal from that. Like, you know, I remember I went through a string of going to the doctor, CAT scans, IBP or is it IPV or IVP tests and get my blood drawn and doing all these tests. That's not what helped me on that. It was going to therapy, having to figure out I have very deep suppressed emotions that I didn't want to deal with about how I was raised. Is taking me years to actually accept it. It wasn't like, oh, the first time or the second time. No, it's taking me years to be like, to own as an 8-year-old, these situations made me feel like this and I didn't feel safe feeling like this. I didn't feel, it wasn't the feeling, it was I didn't feel safe to feel like this. And I should have. because then what I dealt with as a kid, I should not have been dealing with. Watching God be present in my emotional suffering, which is where I needed him. I need him in his suffering and nobody else understanding.
Woo.
Right?
Woo.
Because I can just numb it and just be ambitious.
Bro.
That's why we have so much toxic ambition.
I was going to say that's the vast majority of what people do.
Just get ambitious. Start a new business.
Yes.
You know? And what you realize, but God was present in my emotional suffering, or when I need to deal with that, because I don't believe in just, oh, it was over. Like, you go through certain things, it takes years. There's a reason he's the author and the perfecter of our faith. Like, that is a journey, right? And so you're right. God used the mental health structure to show me how much I needed him, how to feel when nobody else understands, and you need to be okay with it. Don't try to get everybody to understand what you're going through. That's your journey. I'm here for you. I'll bring people along that help you in that area. I'll bring some safe people. One of the first books a therapist gave me. Yeah. First book was called Safe People, Changed My Life.
Come on.
Safe People, changed my life. Because you realize, okay, everybody ain't safe. They might be physically safe.
Listen.
But they're not emotionally safe.
Facts.
Majority of people are not emotionally safe.
Facts.
So you can't tell them certain things because they're going to see it through their lens. So when you tell me about that, I'm going to say, man.
Right.
Or, man, he's saying that it ain't that big a deal. Look, he on stages. What he complaining about?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So see what he driving. What's he? I know he just got a bone. What are you complaining about, bro? Like, you know what his father did to him? What he talking about? And he's like, no, what about children? This is why the journey of being a child of God is amplified now, because I am a child. I gotta stay a child. Yeah. I'm on the stage, but I gotta stay a child.
Yes, bro.
You know what I mean?
And there's more nuance to you than just the stage.
Oh my God.
And so if I only relegate you to just that expression of who you are, I miss the fullness and the journey of what God's done in you.
Exactly.
And I just want to take a moment. I just want to say to everybody that's listening, like, you guys know I'm pro mental health. If you listen to anything that we've talked about, like, this is an aspect of our journey with Jesus that we cannot ignore.
Yes.
And in fact, ignoring it can cause more problems that we're asking God to heal us from, but we've really just trapped ourselves. And can God do that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But oftentimes the trap and the prison that we feel ourselves being in is because we have not allowed ourselves to actually feel the things that we were designed to feel.
Designed to feel. That's it.
Yeah, bro.
Yes.
I think another thing too, just as you're talking, is this resonates with me, bro, because I feel like this is the season of life that I'm in, like, currently, of I want to be a safe person. Like this show, I want to be a safe husband.
Yeah.
I want to be a safe father.
Yeah.
I want to be a safe uncle, a safe pastor, a safe, I do music too. We can talk about that later.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, I want to be a safe musician. I want to be like, whoever I'm encountering, I want them to be like, Antoine's safe. That's a safe.
Yeah.
I could say that I looked at something I shouldn't have been looking at last night. And I know that while there may be conversations that need to happen and ramifications of that, in this moment, he's going to hold space for me to just say that. And the other thing I've realized in my personal mental health and therapy journey too, bro, is the idea that you're saying with not everybody's safe. The nuance that I've learned, and even with family members, if I'm honest, humble, where we talk about the real stuff. Yeah. But not everybody can emotionally handle. They don't have the capacity to handle this version of me. So while I'm on this version of me and healing and emotional health and my wife and I have worked hard at this over the years, and it's like, but I also realize that certain people I talk to, they're not on that. No. They don't have language for that, and they don't have the capacity to handle my vulnerability.
And who you were before you dealt with it was convenient for them, and now it's
facts, bro. So I appreciate this conversation so much, man, because I think even through the lens of hip hop, and I love what you said, the the juxtaposition of you saw this in Memphis, but you saw this in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, that the expression was different and in some ways worse
Yeah.
in the suburban side,
Yeah.
the burb side. But it's still this level of brokenness that we all deal with, this sinful and fallen world that we're in.
Yeah.
And when you can't talk about that in a way that leads to healing and that helps you relegate and regulate what you're actually feeling, we stay trapped. And honestly, I feel like that's the trick of the enemy.
Oh,
When it comes to emotional health specifically, is
Yes.
if I could keep you bound,
yeah.
there's a reason the Bible says renew your mind. So if I can keep your mind bound,
Yeah.
you'll never access the level of healing that you're supposed to have. So you could be on stages, you
Yeah.
could be in church, hey, church it up, church, whatever.
Or career going
Career.
well. Ambition.
Yes, sir.
Business working.
Yes, sir.
Or not working.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. And still be bound. And so I love this conversation, bro, because I think what you're giving people permission to do, and I pray for everybody listening, what you're giving them permission to do is it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to get help.
Yep.
And your emotions are more important than oftentimes we give credit for, or maybe even what we were taught. And so
Good. That's good. You're right.
thank you for this conversation. Thank you for your journey, bro. I feel like literally when I listen to your music now and even just watch your stuff on social media, again, you're not just an artist.
Yeah.
You are, but you're so much more than that. You're a father, you're a minister, you're a speaker, man. And so, but I feel like though, listening through your creativity through the expression of music, that I'm going to hear a different nuance of who you are. And certain bars that I hear, I'm like, oh, that's because of the work he's done.
Yeah.
That's the healing coming out.
Yep.
Bro. This
good.
is so good, man.
That's good.
Bro, I appreciate you coming on here and saying all this, giving us context to your story. This has been such a blessing for me, and I know it's going to be a blessing to the community. But man, with the remainder of our time, bro, any final thoughts that you would love to share for our community as people are listening?
I will say, remember, you are a child of God. You're always a child. You never outgrow being a child of God. And to be a child, have childlike faith, have child energy, and be vulnerable to the Lord. If you find yourself at a space where you don't have the ability to be vulnerable to the Lord, then you've probably stepped out of being a child or feel like you've outgrown it. And especially the way our society is going, we're in a space where mental and emotional intelligence matters more than it ever has. And I believe in therapy, but I believe in good therapists. I don't believe all therapists are created equal. But I believe even in therapy, you should be in prayer. You should not be avoiding uncomfortable or you're going to want to avoid sometime. But uncomfortable emotions does not mean the process is wrong. That means you're going right. And be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process. And remember, no matter what happens, you have a faithful God, a God who's gracious and understanding, and be nice to yourself.
I love that. Be nice to yourself.
Be nice to
Be
yourself.
nice to your current self and your past self.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yep.
We be beating ourselves up. And it's like you did what you did based upon what you knew at the time.
Yep.
And now you know better, do better. The Bible way to say that is Jesus said, go sin no more.
Yes.
So
Yep.
It's okay.
Yep.
It's okay. So, man, thank you so much. I feel it just in this moment to end our time, man, that I'm sure there's someone listening that maybe this is the first time they've heard someone like yourself through the expression of who you are, all the nuances of who you are, say this is okay conversation to have.
Yeah.
So, man, would you be opposed to praying for the community right now?
Definitely. Father God, I thank you for your goodness, your mercy, your grace. Thank you for the spirit of wisdom and understanding and the knowledge you. I pray that everyone's listening. If someone has hidden pain, suppression of emotions, they're scared, they feel such deep shame for either things they've done or things they've felt, I pray the spirit of wisdom and understanding and the knowledge of you, that they will feel the comfort, that you will send safe people around them to begin that process, and they will always know that you're there.
Yes,
In
Lord.
Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. My dude, thank you so much.
Most definitely.
Bro, will you come back? If I
Definitely.
invite you back, bro, because I
Part
feel
two.
like there's more. There it is. I was going to say, I feel like there's more we could have talked about.
Yeah.
But I want to honor your time today.
Definitely.
And, bro, thank you for being a brother in the faith. Man, we could talk even other creative stuff later. But man, I just want to say thank you so much for blessing our community today.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Well, listen, y'all, this has been... Woo! There was a lot in this episode, and this may be one you want to go back and watch again, because Fedel said so many great things. He dropped a lot of just good one-liners that I think for your life will help you really just determine the next step. That could just be to stop what you're doing right now and pray. It could be, hey, you've been sitting on this idea of going to therapy and you haven't done it yet. Like Fedel said, not all therapists are created equal. Do your research, talk to some people that you know, that you trust, and go to therapy. It has changed Fidel's life. It's changed my life. And I would not be even able to do this show, do this podcast, and be talking to you right now if it wasn't for me talking to someone that was clinically licensed to help me walk through and process through my life. So you need that. And if you're listening to Humble, where we talk about the real stuff, we're having more conversations like these. Why? Because God wants to bless who you actually are and wants to rescue the real you as you are on this real journey of healing. He wants that for you because he loves you. So with that, I'm not going to get preachy, but until next time, I love you guys. Thanks for watching today, and I can't wait to see you for another episode. Peace. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Humble Podcast. And here's my prayer, is that something that was shared through the content today resonates with you in a way that changes your life. And I could actually use your help with something. While you're watching this, would you mind subscribing to what we're doing on YouTube? As you do that, that helps other people to be able to see and value what we're doing, just like you do. But also tap that bell icon so you never miss an episode. Next, if you are listening on Spotify and on Apple, leave us a review or comment so that way other people can see what God is doing. And lastly, I would love to invite you into the Patreon community. Simply go to patreon.com/humblepodcast and you could become a patron where you can financially support what we're doing. That gives you access to perks and rewards and like special Q&As and different things like that I'm doing. So that way this community can actually be one where we foster vulnerability and we talk about our real stories and our real journeys with Jesus. Thank you so much for doing that, and I cannot wait to see you next time.